On your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, another day, another example of why Scottie Barnes rules so damn hard.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, February the 9th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram, where I post little clippies all the time. And you can also join the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. As always, great place. Come talk ball, especially when your local basketball team is winning games. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. And we're off and running here on your Monday edition of the show, talking about a 122-104 win over the Indiana Pacers, the very, very tanktastic Indiana Pacers. The Raptors not so good in the first half, extremely good in the second half, mostly because Scottie Barnes is real sick. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the impending return of Jakob Poeltl and what it means for the Raptors' big man rotation. Also, what have we learned about the state of the Raptors' big man situation in the time since Poeltl last played? Kind of a lot, and it's all very encouraging stuff. We've got the good, the bad, the as we always do, coming up later on as well. But yeah, let's dive into Scottie Barnes. Another banger for this guy who just keeps on having an incredible, delightful season. 25 points, 14 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, 4 blocks, a classic Scottie Barnes troll dunk on a fast break, looking back at the other team off a beautiful save on the sideline by Emmanuel Quickly that ends up in the grasp of a Barnes who's all the way up the court. Just all cool stuff. Scottie Barnes is just so much fun to watch right now. And yeah, this game did not start well on the offensive end for the Raptors. A little bit, shot variant stuff, missed some looks they'd normally make. Couldn't quite get into the paint, had some trouble with Jay Huff and his length around the rim, and it took a little while for the offense to get in gear, and Scottie Barnes just kind of decided in the third quarter, you know what the most effective offense here will be is if I just go and bully everybody and get to the rim whenever I damn well please, and that's exactly what he did over the course of the third quarter. 13 points, 8 boards, 4 assists just in that quarter alone. He's really good, everybody. And I mean, Darko Rajakovic is kind of the headline coming out of Sunday with his post-game comments about Scottie, saying Scottie's an all-star, Scottie's the DPOY, Scottie's going to be a finals MVP one day. I love it. I love the unabashed belief in his dude that Darko has, he's walked the walk and talked the talk with his Scottie Barnes belief for years now, and that's always fun. And look, you can worry about MVP, finals MVP some other day, but I do think it's pretty clear that at this point, Scottie Barnes is putting in a real case for an all-NBA bid, on top of being an all-star, on top of being just like a no-doubt obvious all-defense player, probably a first-team all-defense player, and if Victor Wembanyama misses like 4 more games, he's going to be right in the mix to win Defensive Player of the Year as well. He's just that good. And yeah, like you start to look around the league and you start to wonder, how many guys here are more impactful than Scottie Barnes, more deserving of making All-NBA? And it's not a terribly long list. He's just been so freaking good. And you're starting to see the underlying numbers kind of paint this picture as well for Barnes. For most of the season, it was kind of like a modest on-court, off-court split for him. That's expanded out over the last couple of weeks here as he continues to just be instant impact every time he's on the floor. Right now, the Raptors are going along at a plus 3.8 net rating when Scottie Barnes is on the floor. That is about in line with what you'd expect from a 50-win team. Very good stuff. They're a minus 2.2 net rating team when he's off the floor. That's about a 35-ish win pace if you protract it out over the season, do Pythagorean records and all that stuff. All told, a plus 6 on-off differential for Scottie Barnes. And the difference between him being on the floor and off the floor is the difference between being an upper crust Eastern Conference playoff team and being like the Atlanta Hawks. It's awesome. He's just been so good. And look, I think, there've been plenty of reasons why he's been so good. We've talked a lot about sort of taking the experimentation that was last season and figuring out what worked, what didn't work. And he just continues to streamline, trim the fat, and just do the things he's good at. And it's been so critical to him just being this effective and fitting in next to Brandon Ingram with this newfangled offense the Raptors have kind of, built out this year, where it's not Scottie Barnes having to do everything or create from the top. He gets to be a finisher. He gets to be a slasher. He gets to be someone who can be additive to another very good lead scorer. And it's all just been so great in terms of the results. He's at a career high rim frequency, 40% of his shots coming at the rim. He's never touched 40% in his career. He's right on par with his career best in terms of at rim percentage as well. He's shooting 70% at the rim. Very good. He's also got 77 dunks this season. He's 5 away from matching his previous career high of 82 back in his second season. It's very good stuff. And he's also got a career low 3-point rate as well, which I think, clearly he's just not a great 3-point shooter. He took a lot of threes last year, hoping to make fetch happen. Fetch didn't happen. And this season, he's not forced it. Early on in the year when he was hitting everything, yeah, he was taking 4 or 5 a game. And I think it was warranted while he was that hot. But since he's cooled down, he's now like 30, 31%. He's just not forcing the issue from 3. He'll take them in the flow when they come to him. I don't think I've seen a pull-up 3 from Scottie in months. Like, it's been just like a totally revitalized and revamped shot chart from him. And it's really working out. And I think, we saw this in the game against the Pacers, and this has been a recurring story all season long. But a big secret to Scottie Barnes' success is that he's just realized that he's stronger than pretty much everybody in the NBA. People throw around the mini Giannis comparison a lot, and I don't think that's entirely fair because Giannis is a one-of-one freak of nature, at least Giannis at his peak. Scottie, like the way he plays and what we saw in that quarter against the Pacers in particular, like it's not hard to see those comparisons. He's so strong. He's got such force moving downhill. Dudes just bounce off of him. He's got counters. He's got spin moves. He's got some craft when he gets in close. And you also sprinkle in just like the really good mid-range game he's got. And defenses are worried. Like he can pull up from 18 feet after looking like he's going to go complete a drive to the rim. And it throws the defense off. He shakes the defender. It's a wide open look. Or he can just barrel his way all the way there, as every single Pacers defender on the floor seemingly found out yesterday. And look, it's the Pacers. They're tanking. They're not very good. No Ivica Zubac, all that stuff. But Pascal Siakam's a good defender, and he didn't really have anything for Scottie Barnes in this game. He's just so damn strong, and he's using that strength, the sort of improved downhill burst, the first step, the turning the corner, to parlay it into just like easy looks all over the place. And I think a really critical part of his game this season has also just been that he's the single best isolation scorer the Raptors have. You'd think that would be Brandon Ingram, but no, Scottie Barnes kind of outstrips him in those numbers pretty comfortably. Per synergy right now, Scottie's at a 71st percentile points per possession on isolation plays, 1.27 points per possession. That's up from 0.86 a year ago. And you can think back to what they were doing last season, right? With the, okay, Scottie, dribble it and then dribble it some more. And then maybe kind of like back your ass into some guy and maybe you get a mid-range jumper out of it. Like those isolations were just not very like pointed or direct. This year, they are so much more just like, okay, I have the ball, I'm isolating, and I'm going to burn this guy or power through this guy. And it's been a delight. And the guys he's like alongside in terms of points per possession in isolations, it's like a really good set of players. Steph Curry, Pascal Siakam, Jaylen Brown, DeMar DeRozan, LaMelo Ball, Dillon Brooks, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards. He's below a couple of those guys and ahead of a couple of those guys. Like that's very good company to be in as an isolation player. And it's not like it's been this huge component of his game. It's just a thing he sprinkles in, and it's been really effective. He's just kind of picking all the low-hanging fruit available to him. And there's a lot of it because he's enormous and his arms go for days. And you also sprinkle in, the odd dalliances with some stuff that maybe they could kind of even use him more with, like in particular, is like a pick and roll man as a dive man. He's like 1.35 points per possessions as a roll man. Very, very good. I think 82nd percentile per synergy. You could probably use that a little bit more. The fact that they're not, and he's still as efficient as he's been, really impressive. And, as you maybe kind of look to lean into that a little bit more, which maybe they won't. It's not like a pick and roll heavy team. That's not their identity, but it is a play where he's just damn effective. Maybe that's something to even milk a little bit more in terms of efficiency of production out of him. But overall, man, like Darko's not wrong to be singing the praises of this guy. All NBA, very much going to be in the conversation if the Raptors keep on winning like this and the Raptors continue to be a top 5-ish defense all season long. And like, there's only so many ways I can continue to sing the praises of Scottie Barnes myself, but like it's just a game like last night just showcases the like immense growth he's endured over the time with the Raptors. Like, you know, it's been a strange 5-year career from him, ups, downs, sort of moments of doubt. This season, it's really all come together, and like there's still more there to be kind of grabbed and improved and refined, and that should be scary for anybody. Like, there's going to be a credible case that the Raptors like have one of the best guys going into the playoffs on their team. I think he's going to be a very playoff-proof player, especially because of how the team is built around him and how they can kind of optimize him with certain lineups. And that's where I want to go next. We're going to talk about Jakob Poeltl, who's coming back very soon, perhaps as soon as Wednesday against the Detroit Pistons. That's a huge deal, and it changes the complexion of the Raptors front court, which has been getting by and sort of surviving for the last little bit. But you throw in Jakob Poeltl and Trayce Jackson-Davis, who we'll talk about coming up as well, and all of a sudden that big man rotation looks really interesting. There's all kinds of different types of lineups the Raptors can roll with. We'll talk about that and what we've learned since Poeltl last played coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, which is just a single best place to go and play daily fantasy sports. If that is your thing, you can shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. It's very simple. All you got to do is pick more or less on player projections for a given night's action. And if you stack a whole bunch of correct picks together, you're going to win cash. It's pretty sweet. And it's available in all 50 states, so it's easy for just about anyone to jump in. They have a social feature where you can see what other people are playing and copy lineups with one click as well. It's all there for you to play around with on Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, before we dive on into the big man situation with Jakob Poeltl returning, a reminder, Locked On Raptors, the Everydayer Club, is available. The link in the description of the podcast, you go there to the landing page, you sign on up, and it's a lovely thing. You get to get ad-free episodes of this show every single day. You get access to a Locked On Discord with listeners of the Locked On Network from across the globe. We're talking Olympics, baby, among other things. It's all over there in the Locked On Raptors Discord. We'd love to see you join it. On the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club, that is. The Discord on its own, by the way, our current Locked On Raptors Discord, that's staying free. We got the national one that you have to pay to get access to, which I think is worth it. It's lots of fun, plus all those ad-free episodes, and why not try it out? Link in the description of the podcast. $5 a month, $50 for the year gets you ad-free episodes of the show, plus so many fun perks. Okay, let's continue on here. The big man situation. Jakob Poeltl sounds as though he almost went in the game yesterday against the Pacers. It was a game time call, and it sounds as though they're just kind of working him back up conditioning-wise, and it could be as soon as Wednesday against the Pistons before the All-Star break that he gets in. If not, would be shocked if he's not playing after the All-Star break once they return. And look, it's a big deal for Jakob Poeltl to be coming back for many reasons. Obviously, the Raptors have been getting by just fine without him. They have managed to piece it together with Collin Murray-Boyles being a revelation and Scottie Barnes being everything everywhere all at once and Mamu being as effective as he's been. They've made it work. And, you know, you assume that with Trayce Jackson-Davis here now too, they could continue to make it work for a little bit without Poeltl, but let's not get it twisted. Jakob Poeltl's still a good basketball player, and he's the best guy at playing center on this roster, at least for right now. Collin Murray-Boyles may very well get there as soon as next year. Like, he's excellent. The defensive ceiling with him on the floor is incredibly high. The offense has been dragged down when Collin Murray-Boyles has been out there. We've seen the limitations. We've also seen his thumb be a thing, and he left the game early on Sunday. Maybe Jakob Poeltl returning allows the Raptors to give Collin Murray-Boyles some time here. Maybe he takes Wednesday off and you get almost 2 weeks to rest that thumb up before coming back. Either way, it's just nice to have Poeltl back in the mix. I know he has his detractors. I know there are people who have not enjoyed the Jakob Poeltl experience with the Toronto Raptors, but you cannot argue that he's not an effective basketball player. And don't let it be forgotten that the Toronto Raptors starters with Jakob Poeltl still the team's most used five-man lineup and one of their most effective five-man lineups, plus 6.3 net rating over their like 350 something possessions together. Offensive rating of nearly 124. The Raptors have really struggled to score since Poeltl was out of the lineup, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Like, he is not your classic spacing big man. He's not throwing down 20 a game or anything like that, but he just makes everything a little bit easier within your offense. We've talked plenty about the impact he has on Emmanuel quickly as a pick and roll ball handler, having like a real good, sturdy screen setter who's also a good roll man who can Gortat screen guys out of the way. It's been tough for Quickly to operate pick and roll wise, unless he's been running it with Scottie Barnes for the last little while. Poeltl's going to make that easier. Probably get more pull-up three opportunities because Poeltl's back on the team and healthy and playing. And for me, it just gives them like more types of ways they can play. And I think if we think over the last, 5-6 weeks since Poeltl played, and what we've learned and what the sort of necessity of playing all these dudes, Murray-Boyles in particular, has sort of meant, it's that like the big takeaway from this time without Poeltl is that I think the Raptors have way more clearly defined ways that they can in fact play effectively than they did coming into the season. And I think that's a huge deal. Like, you have a bunch of different bigs. You can play in a bunch of different situations. You can go big, small, shooty, defense first, switchy, whatever you want. The Raptors can do it. And I think Poeltl only adds to that lineup versatility they're going to have. You know, Poeltl, we know he's sort of like your classic center in a classic lineup who's going to set screens and he's going to finish around the rim. And as much as him and Scottie Barnes are not like a perfect on paper fit because Poeltl's not a great shooter and neither is Barnes, you cannot deny that those guys have a great understanding of how to manufacture space in close quarters working with one another. Poeltl's just really good at seeping into the right spots to still provide access to the rim for the guys he's playing with. You know, the little baseline floaters, stuff like that, the push shot, it's all there. And it's a really effective tool. He's a smart player, and that really comes through. They obviously have him away from the basket a lot, too, with the dribble handoff stuff. They find a way to make it work space-wise. And I think you have, obviously, like your classic sort of, we're going to go big, right? Against certain teams, against giant lineups, you just want to have a big dude in there. Jakob Poeltl provides that look against your New York Knicks and your Sixers with Joel Embiid and all these teams that just have very large men in the middle of the floor. Poeltl helps you go up against those teams a little bit more credibly, which is great. I think this team's superpower is playing small. I think the Collin Murray-Boyles, Scottie Barnes front court is probably the front court of the future. Those guys rock. They're incredibly hard to score on when those two guys are both on the floor. They're super switchy, incredibly smart, hands everywhere, arms everywhere, deflection city. That's a great way for them to play. I think Mamu provides, obviously, you know, a place for Scottie to kind of more or less be the center. Mamu kind of plays more as the 4 on defense in those situations. He's obviously sort of the nominal backup 5 on paper, but those two guys playing the front court together, we talked about it on Friday. The numbers with Scottie and Mamu on the floor together are ludicrously good. I think only got better last night against the Pacers, as you might expect, because everyone's numbers got better last night against the Pacers because the Pacers ain't very good. But yeah, he's that spacing agent who just opens up so much for Scottie as a driver and sort of lets Scottie flourish as the small ball 5 of your dreams and other teams' nightmares. And then Trayce Jackson-Davis, we'll get into him a little bit here, but he brings more of like a sort of bouncier vertical threat. He's more of like an offensive rebounding specialist. He runs the floor well, sort of brings some similar stuff to Poeltl, but a little bit of a different package of it and some different skill sets he brings than what Poeltl provides. You know, it's just like, we've learned that this team can play around with a bunch of different lineups, styles, base defensive coverages, switch between them based on who's on the floor. And I think it might be the single most encouraging thing when you think about this team in the context of a playoff series. What are the playoffs? The playoffs are problem solving. The playoffs are having other teams try to poke at your weaknesses and you having to adapt. And if you don't adapt, you die. You know, the Raptors aren't a perfectly built roster. They could still use more ball handling, shooting, all that stuff. But they are in a position where I think they can play different lineups, where they can react to what teams are doing to them. They can also press the issue, right? They can play small as well or better than anyone else in the league, and that is a real advantage to be able to zig while other teams zag and put teams on the back foot. You know, if a team has a lumbering big man out there and you go small, you're just speeding them to death, running the floor all over them. that's a huge deal. That's how you can shake up a game in a playoff series, right? And so I think having Poeltl can only mean good things. It also is really nice that they don't have to rely on Poeltl to do everything, right? Very clearly, they have ways to play. And if Poeltl doesn't have it one night, you don't want to close with him because you're worried about the free throw thing or the spacing or whatever. You can play your small ball lineups. You can close with Mama. You can close with CMB, and you can be effective. It's just what good teams do is have lots of ways to play and answers to questions that teams are going to ask of you when things matter. And look, the last couple of games we haven't seen really that tested because it's the Bulls and the Pacers, but Pistons on Wednesday, a lot of good teams coming up on the schedule. And there's going to be a good testing ground for this lineup versatility the Raptors have. And, I'm excited to see Jakob Poeltl get back in there. I think he's going to start. I don't think there's going to be any change to the starting lineup. Like, that's just, politics and what guys earn. And also, again, he's just nominally the best center on the team, as much as Murray-Boyles is making a case for that early. Still think the offensive stuff from him needs to come along. But yeah, it's just like, we're going to see this team kind of fully operational in a little bit here. And I think sometimes this happens when guys get hurt. You kind of figure things out about yourself you wouldn't have otherwise gotten a chance to figure out. I think they figured out a lot of really encouraging things while Poeltl's been down, and he's going to come back into an environment now where everything's not resting on his shoulders at the big man spot like it has been in years past. He's just a part of a really fluid, interesting, varied front court that I think the Raptors are going to have a lot of fun deploying here over the rest of the season into the postseason. We'll come back on the other side, get into the newest member of that front court, Trayce Jackson-Davis, who showed out in his first game as a Raptor. We'll talk some more stuff, including, is Vision 6'9" just back? Did Bobby sneak this upon us? Is it actually awesome? We'll talk about all that coming up to close things out in just a sec. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, and the Winter Games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that is why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle in the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. Maybe you want to throw some money down on a triple Norway podium in the biathlon event or something like that. I watch a lot of biathlon. It's a bit of a sickness. It's just so cool. But yeah, you have that. You got hockey games. Maybe you want to do the happiness hedge against Team Canada if they play the States, both on the men's and women's sides, all that good stuff. If you're a Team Canada fan, obviously, we're rooting for them big time in this upcoming tournament that has zero geopolitical undertones at all, right? Either way, FanDuel keeps the entire Olympics experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. Go check it out. FanDuel, play your game. Today's show is also brought to you by Indeed. And look, when you're hiring, it's just really important to hire the right people. And it's not just about finding someone who's willing to take the job. That's the baseline. You got to have someone who's a good fit. And Indeed sponsored jobs is the move if you want to find those quality matching candidates. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing directly to the people who fit your specific criteria like skills, certifications, and location. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Wrapping things up here on your Monday edition of the pod with the good, the bad, and the This is the way I wrap up every episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. Thing I liked, thing I didn't like, thing that's got me a little intrigued from the latest in Toronto Raptors hoops. And we'll start with the good. Trayce Jackson-Davis looking spry out there in his first game as a Toronto Raptor. And I think my prevailing takeaway from his game, where he puts up 10 points, 10 boards, gets to the line 10 times in 16 minutes. That's a crazy anomaly. He puts up a steal, gets an assist, couple offensive rebounds. Sorry, not a couple, 8 offensive rebounds. I think the takeaway here is, I don't know, I got a lot of time for a dude who just knows how to play basketball, and Trayce Jackson-Davis very clearly just knows how to play basketball. Son of an NBA player, all that stuff. Like, he just kind of gets it. He's like looking like an early knows where to stand all-star, which is always good for me. And it's a very important thing on this Raptors team without a ton of spacing to know where to stand when you're a big man. And I think Trayce Jackson-Davis very much covers that. Love the way he runs the floor as well. Pretty quick up and down, fills the lane nice, makes himself a target. I think he could help when he's on the floor in terms of their transition numbers of just like not duffing random transition possessions all the time. Lots of like, again, when Poeltl's back, Collin Murray-Boyles healthy. He probably doesn't get a ton of minutes, but nice insurance to have, and clearly can kind of come in and be totally passable for, 10, 15 minutes if need be. And the offensive rebounding stuff, a really nice little special skill he's got. Always been an above average offensive rebounder throughout his career. And it's, the thing, the Raptors haven't been like an offensive rebound spamming team this year. I think they're still like top 12 or so in offensive rebound rate last I checked. Having Trayce Jackson-Davis in there when he's on the floor, if you need an offensive rebound situationally, or just you want to spam it because your offense is not doing so hot, he might be a guy who can help do that, which is fun. 8 offensive rebounds in one game. That's nuts. The second good. I don't know how they have a bad in this one. Like, whatever. It's a Monday. The Raptors have won 2 in a row. There's no need to be all gloomy about anything. They were fine. There's no one to really point at who wasn't good in the minutes they played in this game. And so I will go and say, just give a second good. And that is just like the Scottie and Pascal friendship, on floor competitiveness, all that stuff. It's really fun to watch both those dudes kind of cook against one another. I like it that they guard one another very often. It's always very cool. And, the third quarter stretch where they're kind of going punch for punch, it's just lovely. It makes me a little wistful for sure. I mean, things have obviously worked out for both sides. Pascal's flourished so much with the Pacers. It's awesome. Ingram's been a great fit with Barnes. And so, there's like a marginally better fit than Pascal was. There's definitely, though, an alternate timeline here where the Raptors do find a way to build it around both Scottie and Pascal. They just didn't have the right skill set at the time, and it is what it is, and it went the way it did, and it's fine. It's all good. But, it's just cool watching those guys continue to kind of show up. And it's nice that they're still pals, and there's a lot of respect there on both sides. You just like it. I like it when they're friends. What do you want from me? All that leads me to, from one era of Vision 6-9 basketball to perhaps the next. Did this front office just kind of sneakily thrust us back into Vision 6-9 without really expressly telling us that? Vision 6-9, the revisioning, I don't know. Look around the roster. There's a whole lot of dudes listed between 6'7" and 6'9". They play a lot of lineups without tall guys on the floor. Obviously, without Poeltl, it's been noticeable because they don't have anyone who's 7 feet tall without Poeltl. But, like, you bring in Trayce Jackson-Davis, also 6'9". It's pretty fun. It's interesting. This seems to be very much their thing. Didn't change the whole rebuild, the whole change the team. No, like the philosophy very much the same. Get a lot of big dudes who can run and like do wingy things while also doing big type things, and you're going to have a good basketball team. And it's really working. And I think the thing to note here, there is a difference this time with Vision 6.9 2.0, and it's that they actually have guys with sort of varied skill sets, and they offer and check some of the boxes that you need to check to just have functional basketball played. This was the issue with Vision 6-9 before, right? It was a lot of, Pascal and Scottie, there's kind of overlap. Pascal's not fully, or Scottie's not fully refined yet. OG's not great with the ball in his hands. He's more of a spot up threat, sort of second side driver. Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher, loads of energy, loads of offensive rebounding prowess, not a ton of skill going on there. Didn't quite do big man things that they badly needed. And then you had like your Otto Porter, who didn't have a working foot, and Thad Young, who was 48 years old. Like it just like they didn't have enough in terms of varied skill sets within their horde of 6'9" guys to really make it work. But now you look at the team now, and it's like, Brandon Ingram brings some self-creation that no one really had on that version of Vision 6-9. Scottie Barnes is just like a fully different version of himself. The way he plays the 5, he does big man things. He protects the rim. He can screen. He can dive. He can do what you need from a big man on both ends of the floor. You get Mamu, who shoots better than any of those guys ever did on that Vision 6-9 team, just like a dead-eye three-point shooter. You have, now Trayce Jackson-Davis, an offensive rebounding specialist. Collin Murray-Boyles, this switchy monster who can, just hold up and punch above his weight, which was always an issue those Raptors teams had back in the Vision 6-9 1.0 era, where it's just like you come across really big teams and they didn't really have someone who could punch up in weight and size. Collin Murray-Boyles looks like he's going to be able to do that. He's just that strong and thick and crafty. And so, yeah, maybe we're kind of back with Vision 6-9. Maybe it never went anywhere. Maybe it was always the right way to build a basketball team. You'd prefer to have Vision 7 foot, as it seems like the Utah Jazz are trying to build towards. But the issue you run into when you get super big on the size spectrum is you start to run out of those guys who have those requisite skills to make functional basketball happen. 6'9" is kind of the sweet spot where you can get a mix of skills and you can have the 3-point shooting and the creation and the big man stuff all kind of blended in. And so maybe it was never the wrong way to go. Maybe they never veered away from Vision 6'9", but Vision 6'9", I'm declaring, is officially back, and it's lots of fun. And, still issues with the way the team is built, still light on guard play, which was always a bit of an oversight in the first Vision 6'9" era. You'd hope they can find some more guards to kind of tie this all together, or big guys with legitimate guard skills, which would also be very helpful. Very hard to find those guys. Either way, those are problems for the summertime, but Vision 6'9" just kind of seems like it's back and it's not going anywhere. We like it. I'm a big Vision 6'9" truther, so I'm here and I'm happy and I'm thrilled that this is where the Raptors have settled themselves once again. We'll leave it there. We'll be back again on Tuesday to talk about who knows what. We might go big picture. We're working around Big V's Olympic schedule right now, so we're going to get him on it one day this week. Not quite sure when, but either way, we'll have that for you. Some sort of big picture thing on Tuesday. Also, send me your mailbag questions in the Locked On Raptors Discord. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start doing little mini episodes, just reacting to quick mailbag questions, 10, 15 minutes, just kind of going off on one question. So if you have those, drop them into the mailbag chat in the Discord, and I can start to add them to my list as I start to crank those out. All-Star break will be a good time for me to get into the flow with those. And Katie Hind will be back later this week. Joe Wolfon back along soon, and all that good stuff. We'll talk to you on Tuesday, another episode of Locked On Raptors. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, join the Discord, join the Everydayer Club. Links for both of those in the description of the podcast. See you later. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.